Hello and welcome to the UKAsian. We're here at the Besharam Promotions in London with Mr. Sanjeev Lamba, the Chief Executive Officer of Reliance Entertainment, who are the co-producers of the film, and also the Chief Operating Officer of Reliance Entertainment, Mr. Mahesh Ramanathan. Sanjeev, you first. Tell me, Besharam is your latest release after Zanjeer, which was a commercial failure. What are you doing different with Besharam that you did with Zanjeer?
You know, I think this is an extraordinarily diverse and risky business. Zanjeer was made with a certain intent in mind. It did not connect. Besharam is a completely different animal. We are very hopeful that this Zanjeer was experimental. Besharam is somewhat less experimental. We have a director who is coming off a huge film in The Bump, his second debut feature. You have a rapidly ascending star who is by all means becoming gigantic within the Indian film industry. You have him essaying a role that he hasn't done before in his 11th film or 10th or 11th film. He's usually played slightly different characters, as he was mentioning earlier in the press conference, coming away. This is a little broader, a little bigger, more masala, and so on. We are very happy with the way things have turned out over the course of the last 1 year. It's been an extraordinarily good collaborative effort. Rishiji and Neetuji in the film, is a terrific icing on that cake. For them to come together as a family for the first time is in itself a wonderful event. Pallavi's debut as a new actress. So there are lots of good things happening.
I mean, for the layman, just to understand, you as the CEO of Reliance Entertainment, how much of a say do you have in what Reliance produces and what Reliance chooses?
I have the final yes.
Yeah.
I have the final yes. I think it's a very collaborative process. I have a wonderful team of senior managers working with me.
So it could be potentially subjective as well.
Yes, I think all art is subjective. There is no objectivity. You say whether you like something or you don't like something. We have people who bring a point of view on the table from different aspects of a film. They might have a production aspect, they might have a distribution aspect, they might have a marketing aspect, they might have a sales aspect, they might have a financial or a budgetary aspect, they might have a creative, So we discuss our projects pretty openly and pretty fiercely in terms of whether we should or we should not do them. We do only about 7 or 8 a year. We only do 2 or 3 that are large, in terms of large meaning big stars, big budgets and so on. We are also doing a lot of films that are smaller, more intimate, with newer talent at smaller budgets, but stories that hopefully connect with an audience. That said and done, I only know 2 things about this business. Failure is certain, and failure is public.
Absolutely. Very public.
So it takes a certain kind of will and a certain kind of disposition to do this business, the rewards are extraordinary.
Mahesh, what kind of strategy do you actually have for Besharam in terms of releasing it, number of screens in India, in the UK, particularly in the UK?
As far as we are concerned, Besharam is a marquee film. It's a project that has a lot of commercial value attached to it, especially the casting and also Abhinav Kashyap's sensibilities as a director coming on the back of Daban's big success. So we are looking at a 2-pronged strategy. One, go as wide as possible, cover as many countries as possible in day and date release markets. So normally a Bollywood film of this size, 4 or 5 years back, would have released ideally day and date in 35 countries around the world, not more than that. What we call traditional countries, where there is a large Indian diaspora or a South Asian diaspora. So now, over the period of 3-4 years, with concerted efforts, we have kept pushing the envelope, and we have added territories, around 15 odd territories, and now in terms of width of distribution, we are in a position to go 50 countries day and day.
So what are some of these non-traditional markets?
For example, France is a market where Indian films never released.
Exactly.
In fact, invariably, even it never released on a deferred basis. So forget about day and date release. For Besharam, we will be going day and date in a country like France, which has a very little appetite for Bollywood. But there is a population there which is looking at Bollywood films. So wherever there is a substantive Indian or a South Asian population which can accommodate a theatrical release cost effectively, we want to reach each and every one of those countries.
But then, I mean, when you talk about non-traditional market, for instance, France, and I know Chennai Express, for instance, released in Peru, and there are like 300 people living in, 300 Indians living in, or South Asians living in Lima or whatever. How commercially viable is doing that, given the fact that it may not be as wide a market as is commercially viable?
Yeah. The strategy that Reliance adopts, my team has been adopting, has been a strategy where you bundle rights in non-traditional markets. When you're looking to break into a new market, we are looking at not only giving the distributor theatrical rights, but also television rights, home video rights, internet rights, VOD rights, which are also quite lucrative. They have a long tail. So he is in a position to defer his risk on the theatrical business by the prospect of monetizing the non-traditional, the non-theatrical rights over a period of time. Right? The theatrical business is a 3-month business. You get to know the fate of the film in 3 months. But the non-theatrical revenues actually extend the tail of the film to as long as 5 to 7 years. Right? So that's the strategy we have been following. And that strategy has paid us off in a big way, especially when it came to films like Three Idiots. Now, Three Idiots is probably the first 100 crore film only in the international markets. There was a lot of interest in the film industry before on how many films in India gross 100 crore net box office. Right? Three Idiots would be the first film to have crossed 100 crores just in the international markets. How did we do that? We went to markets which were completely new to Bollywood films. We did this bundled strategy of rights sales, and we could price open markets like Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, South Korea, and even Japan, which with Japan Three Idiots released in March, 4 years almost after the theatrical release in India. Right, so I think that's what Reliance brings to the table. We don't look at films as a 3-month sales cycle. We look at films, especially films that we distribute and produce on our own, over a 4-5 year exploitation cycle. So that's how we also invariably end up de-risking a substantial part of a business through pre-sales, as well as we can keep extending the revenue tail of the film internationally for films that do well at the box office.
I know the 100 crore club tag, as it were, is becoming a very important benchmark for a lot. How important is it? And
it's meaningless.
Thank you. Okay, that's a short and sweet answer. But put it into a little bit of context for our listeners.
This industry across the world has always measured the theatrical box office of a film as equivalent to the price paid by consumers at the ticket window. Right? When you say a film has done $100 million in the North American box office, you mean consumers have gone and paid $100 million at the box office window. Sure. Right? The 100 crore number in India is meaningless because India has an entertainment tax on every ticket. That entertainment tax is paid directly by the theatre to the government, so it never comes back to the producer. So that entertainment tax, for some reason, is deducted when talking about. So we talk about a gross number and a net number. So when you actually say a film has done 100 crores, the film has actually sold 150 crores of tickets.
Right.
It's just that 50 crores of that has gone to the government as taxes, and the balance 100 crores is divided between the theatres and the producer. So if I'm a producer, there are only two numbers that matter to me. Number one, what did the consumer pay for my product? I mean, when a toothpaste company goes out and talks about his revenues, it doesn't talk about his revenues net taxes. Sure. It talks about his revenues, its gross revenues. So from a business point of view, 100 crore number is complete nonsense. It just sounds good. Why? Because somebody thought 100 million in Hollywood, so 100 crore in India. There is a connection in people's heads. It doesn't mean anything. Because every 100 crore film has actually done 150 crore of ticket sales. And every 100 crore film has only brought 50 crores into the pocket of the producer.
And as a measurement against historical films as well, it's you can't really compare something that happened 10 years ago.
Absolutely not, because then you have to get into the practices of value of money, inflation, and so on. I could argue Gone with the Wind is the biggest film in the world, but it won't rate in the modern lists of the top 20 because nobody does those kind of numbers. And that's true for India too. Some of the earlier films like Sholay and so on must have done extraordinary business at today's prices. The size of the release, these are all underlying factors. And I think the size of the release is your decision, so you shouldn't really bring that factor in. You could always go and release the film to whatever size that you want. If a film thirdly, cost. If you're making a film for 100 crores, and you are getting 100 crores at the box office, that's never factored in. If you're making a film for 20 crores and you're getting 100 crores, you got my attention, right? So eventually, cost versus revenue, profitability. Eventually, the size and scope of the release. If you have a film that's releasing in 1,000 screens and a film that's releasing on 3,000 screens, and both do 100 crores, they're essentially different animals.
Absolutely.
They're very different animals in terms of the scope to see the film and the audience that it potentially reached out to and who turned out, right? So I think this is a good shorthand to draw interest in the industry. Now keeping track of the box office of a film has become almost like a national sport. Everybody does it.
With Twitter and everything.
But very few people actually understand the underlying issue.
The context of it, isn't it?
Because if I said to you, 100 crores film is actually 150 crores in terms of revenue, and 100 crore films is actually 50 crores to the guy who made it.
Yeah.
Then what is the meaning of the 100 crore number, right? Now you've had two films in the last 3 years cross 200 crores.
Yeah.
Right? I bet you, and potentially there are 2 or 3 films within sight that will also do 200 crores, right? So suddenly this 100 crore argument will go away. I promise you it will go away. Because
the next fad will be 200
the next will be the 200 crore club or whatever. Whatever that you call it. So I don't pay much attention to this. I look at size of release, I look at size of budget, I look at a lot of other factors to be able to really say what
ultimately return on your investment.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Absolutely. Final couple of questions. First for you, Sanjeev. Very intriguing that Reliance chooses to, limit its number of releases to 7 or 8 films, as you mentioned. Why is that, and where is Reliance going next in terms of collaborations, particularly with Hollywood and other Western partners? And to you, the last question would be, tell me a little bit about India and how the cinema market in India is expanding, and how much potential and opportunity there is, especially for investors from the UK. But you go first, please.
We operate on both sides of the pond. Obviously, we have a partnership in DreamWorks. We have a presence in a company called I Am Global.
Yeah.
We have presence in VFX, a company, digital animation. So we have a participatory understing.
I Am Global is a financier.
No, I Am Global is a company that helps independent producers find worldwide distribution and sales, and is one of the top 2 or 3 companies in this area. They also finance movies, or find bridge financing to movies to get them made against distribution sales. So we have a participatory understanding of Hollywood. I've worked in Hollywood myself. I came from there back to India a few years ago. So there are many others like me who also understand both sides of the coin and so on and so forth. I think that a Hollywood-India type of collaboration, it's already happening on many levels. You're finding on technical levels, it's been happening for some time. You have cameramen coming into India and shooting. You have editors that are helping. There's
CGI.
There's CGI. There's 3D conversions. So that's happening. When we say Hollywood, you mean some sort of a co-financing, or you mean actors, acting together and so on. That'll take longer. That'll take much longer. I think India is a fiercely domestic market. Hollywood sure is less than 10. And the creative process in India is geared towards the domestic audience. So every film, a film is not necessarily a story. I mean, the good old adage is a good story, well told. You have a friend who tells you a joke and you laugh a lot, and then you have another friend who tells you the same joke and you say that was the most boring joke you heard. Delivery is very important. So it's not just the story, and we deliver our films to a domestic audience in a particular way. We have an idiom, a grammar, we use music in a certain way, we use editing in a certain way, we use camera in a certain way, we heighten emotions in a certain way. That doesn't necessarily very easily travel out to international audiences. Right? Our actors are not comfortable acting in other languages besides themselves, as many others would not be. So there are limitations in that area. But I think there will be a film, and it's not very far away. And the films that have seen success out of with Indian themes have been actually made outside India. When you talk about films like Meera Nair's films, or Shekhar Kapoor's films, or what was the
Deepa Mehta.
Deepa Mehta.
No, the Deepa Mehta. I'm having a little bit of Slumdog Millionaire.
Slumdog Millionaire.
I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment. I'm getting old.
Boyle.
Slumdog Millionaire and so on. When you talk about films like that, they were made essentially outside the country.
Yeah.
As far back 30 years ago, Richard Attenborough making Gandhi, making outside the country. Because these were people who were telling an Indian story, but telling it in an idiom and grammar that was acceptable to international audiences. Right? If you have directors here who see the potential for our growth spreading out beyond Indian diaspora audiences. Our films are now playing in China and Japan. I think that itself is a process of osmosis to see why do our films, what's making these things work. A lot of people have asked us, why did Three Idiots work in Japan? Why did it work in China? There's a process. No, there's a process going into motion. So hopefully that will happen, but I'm not holding my breath.
Right. We know India is the largest box office in the world with 3.5 billion admissions. The problem with the overall potential, what is actually, in my view, limiting the potential of rapid growth in India is infrastructure, is exhibition. We are grossly under-screened. We have only 11,000 screens. Out of the 11,000 screens, you have almost 1,000 screens which you can call good quality multiplex screens, which can offer a good cinematic experience to a viewer. The other 10,000, I think, though people have purchasing power, they do not want to go and watch films in theaters which are decrepit and ramshackle, and that's also limiting the potential of the Indian film industry within our own country. The average ticket price today is just 30 rupees. In multiplexes, the ticket prices are running at 300, 400, 500 for even big films like Krish, maybe 600 on the opening weekend. But the single screens, the 10,000 single screens, sell tickets at 10 rupees and 15 rupees and 20 rupees, right? So with these ticket realizations, there's hardly any growth. We might be growing at double the rate of GDP overall, the entertainment industry in India, including the film industry, but it's on a low base. Overall, we are like 10,000 crores, which is just 2% of the worldwide movie business, which is very tiny. I think a film like Avatar does 10,000 crores worldwide, just one film from Hollywood. So
14,000 crores. The world's there.
Yeah, exchange rates
bigger than the entire film industry.
Bigger than the one film,
including theatrical box office, television, home video, everything.
Right. So if investments are to come from outside of India, the investments have to come in the exhibition space. I think there is a great opportunity. There is modern retail taking off in India. There is a lot of anchor tenant possibilities for multiplexes to come and set up shop in the shopping malls. The city landscape is completely changing in terms in favor of modern retail. So the modern retail is also going beyond the metros.
तेरा नाम होना चाहिए था बेशरम